Sometimes the most painful moments of our lives are not the ones in which we are abandoned, betrayed, or forgotten by others, but the moments in which we abandon love preemptively, pull away from comfort instinctively, and turn our backs on the very people who reach out to hold us. There is something tragic in the quiet reflex of retreat that lives inside many of us, a reflex that whispers, "Do not rely, do not soften, do not trust." When life becomes heavy and we are most in need of connection, that whisper grows louder, and the part of us that once learned to be cautious begins to take control. We push people away not because we do not care, but because some old part of the mind tells us that caring is dangerous, that leaning on someone is a risk, that needing anyone is a vulnerability we might not survive. There is something unspoken belief that forms early in the lives of many of us, shaped by moments too small to remember and yet too powerful to forget. A belief that says, closeness is unpredictable, affection is unstable, tenderness is conditional, and disappointment is inevitable. We internalize this long before we can describe it. A child who learns that emotional warmth can disappear without warning does not grow up feeling free to reach for it. They grow up watching their own reactions carefully. They grow up monitoring the distance between themselves and others, making sure it is never too close to bring pain and never too far to cause suspicion. And in adulthood, when someone offers safety or concern, the mind may respond with a strange panic, an urge to run before anything can be lost. We tend to imagine that withdrawal is a sign of indifference, but very often it is the opposite. It is the mind's clumsy attempt at protection, a defensive movement shaped by a past the person cannot fully articulate. To push someone away is easier than to risk the feeling of being rejected again. To deny our own need for comfort is easier than to face the terror of depending on anyone. When we shut down emotionally, when we become cold or distant, we are not expressing a lack of care. We are expressing fear in the language that fear has taught us to use. Yet this fear does not appear as fear. It appears as irritation, as fatigue, as anger, as silence. We snap at people who come too close because closeness threatens to touch wounds we have long avoided. We insist we are fine because admitting otherwise would force us to rely on a connection we worry we cannot sustain. We build walls because walls once kept us safe, even if they imprison us now. The tragedy is that the very reflex that protected us at one point in life becomes the reason we suffer later, and we do not always realize the shift. The defense stays, even though the danger is gone. It is not easy to recognize when our own emotional patterns have taken over. They feel natural, inevitable, simply how we are. But when someone who loves us reaches out and we feel an internal tightening instead of softening, when support feels threatening and comfort feels foreign, we are meeting not the present moment, but an echo from the past. The past has its own presence inside us, influencing our reactions, shaping our expectations. And so we push people away not because they have done anything wrong, but because the past has made us suspicious of the very thing they are offering us. There is a particular kind of loneliness that arises from this dynamic, a loneliness that does not come from a lack of people, but from an inability to let the people we have actually reach us. We can sit beside someone who cares deeply and yet feel untouched by their closeness. We can want connection desperately and still recoil from it when it arrives. It is a form of psychological self-entanglement. We want what we fear, and we fear what we want. The contradiction makes us act against our own interests, And afterwards, we do not know why we feel so empty or guilty. The mind becomes both prison and prisoner, guarding us from precisely the thing that would free us. Sometimes the pattern appears in subtle ways. We change the subject when someone asks about our feelings. We smile too quickly, reassure too quickly, insist we need nothing. We present an image of composure not because we are composed, but because we worry that the truth of our vulnerability might overwhelm or burden the person in front of us. We assume that our emotions are too heavy, too chaotic, too much, and so we push people away by pretending we do not need them. We deny ourselves the chance to be held because we have been taught that our needs are inconvenient. Other times, the pattern appears dramatically. We start arguments out of nowhere, pull away the moment someone gets close, or create distance before a relationship deepens. It is a preemptive strike against imagined disappointment. Better to leave now, the mind insists, than to be left later. Better to feel in control of the separation, even if it hurts, than to wait for someone else to withdraw first. The desire for control becomes a disguise for fear, and beneath the display of emotional independence sits a quieter truth. We are terrified of being hurt, and even more terrified of being seen hurting. It is easier to appear strong than to admit fragility, but emotional self-containment is a lonely performance. It keeps us safe, but it keeps us alone. When we push people away, we are choosing the pain we know over the uncertainty we fear. It feels safer to suffer privately than to allow someone to witness our internal world. Yet the cost is high. We deprive ourselves of connection, empathy, and relief. We remain locked in isolation, even when companionship is right in front of us.
None of this is a failure of character. It is a consequence of history. The mind learned these behaviors in environments where emotional openness was punished, ignored, or ridiculed. A child who grows up without emotional safety becomes an adult who cannot easily believe in it. And so, when love appears, it feels like a trick. When someone stays, it feels temporary. When someone listens, it feels suspiciously generous. The mind prepares for loss even in moments of comfort, and the heart responds by closing before it can be broken. To understand this is not to blame ourselves, it is to extend compassion inward. No one chooses these defenses consciously. They are adaptations, strategies for survival that once served a purpose. The tragedy is that emotional survival strategies often outlive their usefulness. We cling to them long after the threat is gone because the mind cannot easily update its sense of reality. It knows only what it has learned, and what it learned was closeness is risky. When we start recognizing these patterns, we may feel ashamed. We may think, why do I ruin good things? Why do I push away the people who care? Why am I like this? But the truth is far kinder. We are like this because some part of us once had to be, and that part does not know the danger is over. It is trying to protect us, not sabotage us. The face of anger may hide a frightened child. The coldness of silence may hide a longing for comfort. The distance we create may hide a desire to be understood. Beneath every withdrawal lies a hidden plea. Please don't hurt me. The irony is that the people we push away often want to help, but they cannot enter a space we keep sealed. They may misunderstand our distance as rejection, our silence as indifference, our defensiveness as hostility. They may feel blamed for wounds they did not create. And slowly, they may begin to retreat in their own way. The very act of protecting ourselves can end up creating the scenario we feared, the loss of connection. Fear becomes self-fulfilling, not because the world is untrustworthy, but because we never let the world show us otherwise. Healing begins when we acknowledge this, not dramatically, not suddenly, but gently, with the quiet courage to observe ourselves, to sit with the discomfort instead of reacting, to notice the tightening in the chest when someone comes close, to recognize the impulse to withdraw as a reflex, not a command, and slowly, in small steps, to experiment with vulnerability, to allow one honest sentence where silence once existed, to accept one moment of comfort without pushing it away, to let someone stay just a little longer than feels safe. Vulnerability is not about revealing everything. It is about letting reality be shared, even in small doses. It is about allowing someone to witness the truth of our emotions without expecting them to fix us. It is about reducing the space between who we are and who we pretend to be. And it is about understanding that emotional exposure is not weakness. It is the only path to genuine connection. We push people away when we need them most because we have been hurt before. But the only way out of the cycle is to let ourselves risk a new outcome, to trust that some people might stay, to believe that our needs are not burdens, but invitations to intimacy, to slowly dismantle the belief that we are safer alone. There will be moments when the old reflex returns, when silence feels easier than honesty, when withdrawal feels safer than connection. That is normal. Healing is not linear, but over time, the mind can learn new patterns. The walls can thin, the fear can soften, and we can begin to experience closeness not as a threat, but as a comfort. The truth is that we are not meant to navigate life alone. Human beings are designed for connection, for shared burdens, for emotional companionship. Pushing people away keeps us from the very nourishment the psyche needs. We may fear abandonment, but the deeper fear is often the exposure required for closeness. And when we understand this, we can approach ourselves with gentleness instead of judgment. There is a quiet bravery in allowing someone to stay when every instinct urges you to keep them at a distance. There is courage in asking for help, even when your voice trembles. There is strength in admitting you are hurt. And there is profound healing in letting your defenses rest, even for a moment, in the presence of someone who chooses to love you. In the end, the people who truly care are not frightened by your fears. They do not flee from your discomfort. They do not require perfection. They ask only for sincerity. And sincerity is something we can give even when we cannot give clarity. We push people away because love feels dangerous, but the deeper truth is that love is the only thing capable of soothing the danger we carry inside. Life becomes gentler when we allow ourselves to be touched by others. And though the old parts of the mind may protest, insisting that closeness is unsafe, the heart knows otherwise. The heart knows that connection is not the enemy. Fear is. And fear loses its power the moment we name it, share it, and let someone sit beside us while it loosens its grip. We push people away when we need them most because we once had no choice. But now we do, and each small step toward openness, each quiet moment of honesty, each attempt at staying rather than fleeing, becomes an act of healing that slowly rewrites the story we have lived inside for so long. The walls can fall, the fear can fade, and we can learn with time that allowing love in is not a danger, but a return to the safety we were always meant to know.